Caroline Lucas.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Watching the scenes at Kabul airport this week has left me and so many others with feelings of overwhelming grief and anger. Grief for the millions of Afghan women and girls in particular who were promised a brighter future and the opportunity to learn and to work and to pursue their dreams. And anger that the many pledges made to the Afghan people over the past 20 years have been broken as they were abandoned to their fate. The stories being told by terrified Afghans are heartrending. The women students who are now hiding their diplomas and certificates for fear of punishment and in the belief that in any case their qualifications will be useless as they won't be allowed to use them. The female mayor who says that she's now waiting for the Taliban to come for people like her and to kill them. The Afghan journalist now in hiding with his family who said there was a lot of promise, a lot of assurance about values, a lot of talk about progress, about rights, about freedom, about democracy. That all turned out to be hollow. Madam Deputy Speaker, that journalist is in danger of being proved right. We have to do whatever we can now to honour our commitments to the people of Afghanistan. And that starts with fixing our failed refugee and asylum seeking system. For all the hand-wringing of government ministers in the past few days, the reality is that their actions over the past few months have left thousands of ordinary Afghans in terrible danger. Interpreters and contractors who worked side by side with UK forces have been refused resettlement on the grounds that they were technically subcontractors. That is shameful. I fear for the thousands of ordinary Afghans who supported the UK, delivering aid and supporting other projects, often in the interests of our foreign policy objectives. They are now at real risk of being seen as collaborators working against the Taliban's interests. The NGOs they worked with are now powerless to help them, but the UK government is not. Yet we've heard very little about what the government is doing to persuade them and to support them. Many are not covered by the Afghan Relocation and Assistance Programme because they worked for UK organisations other than the government, for the NGOs or the civil society organisations, even though they were paid by UK aid. They are in extreme danger, so that ARAP programme must be expanded to encompass them too. The scheme was far too late to get off the ground. It only started in April when Taliban advances and atrocities were already all too apparent. And it's been drawn far too narrowly. It must be amended to allow visas for the family of people who would have been eligible but who have died, and for people who fled Afghanistan but would have been eligible if they'd remained in country. The resettlement scheme announced by the government last night is welcome, but it's not enough. Places must be based on need, not on numbers. There should be no artificial cap. When the government is already failing to achieve its existing target of settling 5,000 refugees a year, we need to hear an awful lot more about how ministers are planning to deliver for Afghan refugees and have guarantees that local government will be properly funded to work with them too.
On that point,
I urge the...
On that point, I thank my honourable friend for giving way. Does she agree with me that it is absolutely vital that where there are local councils like mine in St Albans that have been willing for some time to take on additional refugees, they are given the additional finance for the local government itself to support those refugees, so it has the funding to help find furniture, to relocate, to connect with utilities. All of that support is needed so the council itself can support refugees.
I absolutely support the comments that she makes. That is absolutely vital. So I am calling on the Home Secretary today to abandon the resettlement-only plans set out in the Nationality and Borders Bill that would criminalise or deny full refugee status to those who make their own journeys to seek asylum in the UK. I'm calling on her to grant immediate asylum to Afghans already waiting for status here in the UK, to release all Afghan nationals from detention, and to urgently expand the family reunion route so that Afghans can be joined by other members of their family, including siblings and parents, like my constituent who contacted me. He used to work for the EU delegation in Kabul. All of his siblings worked for Allied forces. He has asylum here in the UK, his siblings have asylum elsewhere, but his mother is left alone and desperate and very much a target. So we absolutely need to widen those family reunion rules. We also need properly to restore aid, not just to restore it but increase it. The Foreign Secretary said that it's being doubled. I welcome that, but it's still less than the figure of 2019, and we need today to recognise that the need is so much greater than it was even in 2019. Madam Deputy Speaker, there are so many lessons to be learnt from this disaster. Our intelligence looks like it might well have been inadequate, our promises to the Afghan people worthless, and our duty of care to ordinary Afghans who worked with us patchy and unreliable. More than that, though, this Afghan tragedy should be the catalyst that finally forces us to rethink how the so-called war on terror is fought. Because the debacle in Afghanistan, with the loss of almost 250,000 lives, is just one of 4 failed conflicts in the last 20 years. Western military action in Libya, in Iraq, and the air war against ISIS in Syria have all failed to achieve their objectives. ISIS is still active in Iraq and Syria, ISIS al-Qaeda active across the Sahel and Eastern Africa, and there are still links with Afghanistan. We urgently need to learn lessons of failed wars of intervention and to take an honest look at the objectives behind our foreign policy. Protected British interests has for too long been about stability and safety through access to oil, through maintaining the current balance of power, and a very inconsistent, to put it mildly, approach to human rights and democracy. When we ally ourselves to countries like Saudi Arabia, our moral credibility to speak about human rights is fundamentally undermined. A longer-term approach is needed, stopping arms sales to oppressive regimes that don't abide by international law, a more consistent approach to democracy across the world. The government likes to boast of our country being global Britain. If that is to mean anything, it surely has to be an opportunity to finally develop the ethical foreign policy that we have spoken about for so long, focused on seeking to build international and consensus with cooperation, security and human rights at its heart.